Well, welcome to the third and final week of our brief July series, From Ministry to Mission and Back Again. This series evokes J.R. Tolkien's story of Bilbo Baggins, the hero of the novel The Hobbit, who lived a sheltered life until he set out on a great adventure. And he came home, he came back again, changed forever. Our lives are precious, and our opportunities to serve are limited. As a parish, we want to provide as many opportunities as possible because as followers of Christ, we're called to serve. Here we make, as St. John's, a general distinction between ministry, which is service to one another inside the church, and mission, which is any kind of service outside the church walls. Well, this series has been inspired by a few of our parishioners who recently came back home again from a missionary trip to Guatemala. And during the course of these weeks, they're sharing their testimonies, their stories. And the goal is that other parishioners, perhaps some of you, are inspired to step up and to go on mission. Last week we learned from the parable of the Good Samaritan that service is not optional. Christ calls us to serve, and our neighbor, whom we're called to serve, our neighbor is anyone and everyone who happens to be in our path. Service, going on mission, builds up our character in order to do so, to be that good Samaritan. Well, today we're going to learn that there's one essential element, above all, to go on mission, before, during, and after. And it's something that many people aren't all that good at. I just want to give a little testimony myself. As a seminarian, I went on a couple mission trips during my summer times as a seminarian. One time I went to El Salvador, and another time we did a local trip to see the poor in Washington, D.C. And on both of those trips, we actually stayed with Mother Teresa's sisters, the group I was with, the Missionaries of Charity. And I've always been incredibly amazed at the tremendous twofold commitment of the Missionaries of Charity, if you've ever been around them, of these sisters, to prayer alongside their service to the poorest of the poor. So every day during our mission trips, both of them that I went on, we prayed morning prayer, evening prayer, and night prayer together. So in my trip to D.C., one place we went was to the northeast section of the city where the Missionaries of Charity used to have a homeless shelter for men who were dying of AIDS. I had some very powerful experiences there. And then in southeast D.C., they had a soup kitchen that they ran for the local neighborhood. Well, in both places I saw this toughness and compassion hand in hand on the part of the sisters who ran these places. But one time, our group was at the soup kitchen, and there was this very hostile drunk man who's obviously inebriated coming in to get some food, and he was kind of flailing and making a lot of noise, and this sister who was less than 5 feet tall, I tell you, was a force of nature. She put the fear of God into that guy, and we were all safe and sound. She had a strength that can only come from God. And in today's gospel, we hear where that strength comes from. Today's maybe familiar story, we hear about two sisters, each with their own personality. They are both good friends of Jesus, and we see their personalities come out with an essential lesson for any missionary. The story begins like this. Luke tells us, Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Oh, in another passage in the Gospel of John, we hear that these two sisters also had a brother named Lazarus. So here we hear about Martha and Mary. Martha welcomed him. Apparently, she's the head of the household. She's introduced here first. Her sister, Mary, sits at the feet of Jesus and listens to him speaking. Wonder what he was saying. Was he preaching? Was he teaching? Was he giving good and godly advice? Was he critiquing Martha's cooking? We don't know. What matters is Mary's posture. Sitting at the feet of a rabbi was a sign of great respect for the rabbi's authority as a teacher and as a man of God. And as an aside, it would have been, what is shocking here is that women in Jesus' time weren't supposed to do that. It was unheard of in that time that a woman would sit at the feet of a rabbi and be his disciple. It shows, especially in Luke's perspective, among the four Gospels, that Jesus was not afraid to push boundaries and challenge taboos. Well, anyway, Luke continues. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister had left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me. To call her sister out in front of an invited guest must have meant that Martha was really annoyed at her sister. But you know, Martha has a point. Reading this verse, I hear the voice of my mother, actually. Greg, stop playing video games and go do your chores. Greg, stop watching TV and help me do some work outside. Martha's agitated. She's upset that her sister's not, quote unquote, doing anything. You might expect Jesus here to support Martha. Okay, Mary, enough sitting around on your behind. Go help your sister. As always, however, Jesus uses this moment to teach. So Luke tells us, the Lord said to her in reply, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her. The expression, Martha, Martha, reminds perhaps a certain crowd here of the Brady Bunch, but it also implies that Jesus knows them well. He has a very intimate, friendly relationship with them. He takes this very simple exchange here to teach that the serving part is in fact secondary. The most important thing, the better part, is Mary's part. She is doing something. She's listening. She's adoring. She's in prayer. For many people, perhaps for Martha and Mary too, it's not explicitly said, but perhaps this is the case. It comes down to one's personality, doesn't it? Which person are you? Are you a Martha or are you a Mary? Do you naturally want to just help to step up and serve? You that kind of person? Or are you more contemplative and more reflective? Most of us are a little of both, but I suspect that we all lean one way or the other. I'm probably more of a Mary. And I need Marthas in my life to keep me accountable. As I said, Martha, in her irritation, has a point. However, Jesus teaches that Mary has chosen the better part. That says something about what it means to serve. Let me ask you, what is your attitude when you serve? What are your motivations for why you serve? We can serve, but we can have a bad attitude. We can serve, but it's coming from our ego or our desire for respect or the attention of others. We can serve in a position out of mere duty, even though we're miserable. I would even go as far as saying this, and I've seen it too many times actually. Service without prayer leads to burnout. Service without prayer leads to forgetfulness about why we're serving. Service without prayer leads to tempers flaring, egos clashing, and ultimately people walking away bitter and sad. Service without prayer, I think, leads to practical atheism. We forget that it's God's work that we're doing. Now, the lesson is, just as we said last week, service is not something optional for a Christian. Today we learn that prayer is also not optional. Whenever you serve this week, this summer, or any time, pray beforehand. You can say, Jesus, I thank you for the opportunity to serve. Fortify me and strengthen me through the work that is going to be done. And pray during the time of serving. Say, Jesus, may this work that I'm doing through you reach completion. And pray after serving. That means, Jesus, thank you for this day, for the work accomplished. May you make up for the rest. And at all times we can say, thank you for the privilege to serve. So my friends, service in Jesus' name is not a right, it's not a burden, it's a privilege. So just ask our